Hey guys, this is Ben from I'm Just a Fan, and today we're going to be previewing the new schedule for the 2024-2025 season for the Arsenal. And it just dropped, I'm pretty sure it just dropped yesterday. So I plan on going through and kind of just giving very, very brief predictions of how I think the game is going to go. Again, the summer transfer hasn't really started it started, but Arsenal hasn't made any big moves. But I felt like this was an appropriate video that I could make at this time just because, let's be honest, yes, Arsenal can still add a quality player that is going to change the dynamic of our season upcoming. But at the same time, we have a core 11. I realistically don't see them changing many of the starters, if any, other than potentially a new striker. But even then, I don't see them starting over Kai. And also, I guess it really just depends on what happens with that midfield if we do end up selling Partey or not. Which, again, that can make slight, differences. But long term, I think that this Arsenal squad is pretty much set for the most part, other than a few key pieces. So I think it's appropriate that I'm able to at least talk about the outcomes of this. Now, if this was a different team with a bunch of players leaving, I'd have to wait to make this video, but I feel comfortable doing this, so let's get right into it. So first, we're starting off with August. August doesn't look terrible, but I wouldn't say it looks great either. So first, the start of the season, let me just make sure I get the date right. August 17th at 10 a.m. for me. So again, I'm not in England or anywhere in Europe. I'm in America, so these are the times for me. I guess I won't say the times, but we have, on the 17th, we have Wolves at home. I think we're going to beat Wolves. This is a game where I can see Arsenal winning 3-1 or something, or maybe like a little 2-0 victory. I think this is going to be a quick and easy one. I have the Arsenal going 1-0 to start the season. Second game is the week after. We end up going to Villa in Birmingham, and I am not honestly confident that Arsenal can get a win here. I want to say that they do just because I really want revenge for the last two matches that happened last year. But if I'm going to be honest, this team has really given Arsenal some problems in the last couple of years, specifically again last year. It was really embarrassing, specifically that last game in the Emirates. It's pretty much where they lost the season, in my opinion. I think with this matchup, I think it's going to be a tough game. I think Arsenal could win, but I'm going to lean towards a draw specifically because it's in Villa and it's so early into the season. So I'm going to lean draw. I have Arsenal being 1-1 at the end of the second week. And the last week of August 31st, Arsenal hosts Brighton. Brighton used to be a little bit of a thorn in our side a couple years ago, but last year we completely dismantled them both at the Emirates and at Brighton Stadium last year. So I think this is going to be, again, another win for Arsenal. I could see Arsenal maybe not necessarily struggling for a little bit, but it being 0-0 to around the 35th minute, and then Arsenal pulling away, winning maybe 3-1, 2-0 again. So yeah, I have Arsenal now being 2-1 at the end of August. All right, jumping into September. This is definitely, honestly, it's kind of a hell month. It's really scary that they start off September so. I can't necessarily say strong because we had to see about the performance, but the schedule is strong, and of course we also have Champions League starting up with the group stage, and that's going to be something we have to factor in as well. Now, of course, I can't really of course that's going to be a factor, but I can't factor that in right now just because I don't know who we are playing. But we started off in September. We get the 2-week break at the end of August, and then the beginning of September we go to Spurs and we play them. I'm going to go with a win for Arsenal here just because I'm not really afraid of Spurs. I got to see what moves they make this year. I think they are a team on the rise. I like Ainge a lot at manager, and I like some of the pieces they have. But they, of course, gave Arsenal fits last year at the Emirates, which was a really disappointing draw for us. But I felt like we really dominated for the most part when we were in Tottenham last season. Again, I know they almost threw the game away, but at the same time, I feel like this is something that they can do on the road, and they're obviously just a better team than Spurs. So I'm going to go Arsenal beats Spurs away, and that would make Arsenal 3-1 after beating Spurs. After that, this is, again, where things get tough. The week after, there's no resting, nothing. You got to go to the Etihad. When I first saw this, I wanted to lean towards a loss just because it's similar to where the game was for us last year. We hosted City early. I think it was early October, late September. I think it was maybe more in October, and we ended up beating them 1-0. Now, I do remember City was banged up. They didn't have De Bruyne, and I think they were missing one more key player. But I don't know. I'm going to lean towards a draw just because realistically, we know how these two teams are going to play. They're very, very defensive, and they'll take shots when they need to take shots. But judging off of the fixtures from last year, a 1-0 victory against City that we barely squeaked out at home, and then the 0-0 draw at the Etihad last year, I'm going to go with a draw. I think it maybe will be a little bit more high scoring this year just because I think Arsenal... I would like to see Arsenal actually play for the win this year, but we also have to be realistic. If you even take any points against Manchester City, that's not bad. So I have Arsenal getting a draw here, and this would make them 3-2 so far in the season. And then the next week after that, we do host Leicester. Not really worried about Leicester. I'm sure, they have a couple decent players, but they're also coming up for the championship, and I'm not even going to really pretend like I know, honestly, a ton of players on their team. I know they got Vardy still, but I think they're going to get hit by some type of financial fair play type of thing when they come up to the Prem. So I don't know if they have to sell some players or something. That's something I need to look into, but I'm going to just chalk this up to a W for Arsenal. I just don't see how they beat us at the Emirates, and I don't see that being one of the games that they drop. So finishing September, Arsenal will be 4-2 in the league, 4 wins, 2 draws so far for me in the league. All right, so for October, it gets a little easier for us, but I'm not going to say, anything's a given in the Premier League. We host Southampton. I think this is a game, again, Arsenal will take care of pretty lightly. I don't want to necessarily sleep on Southampton. Again, another team that just came up from relegation. Oh my gosh, I always mess that up. Regardless, the only thing that scares me about Southampton was that game 2 years ago where they scored really early against Ramsdale. We ended up getting a draw, but it kind of honestly cost us the title in the 2022-2023 campaign. But I think this is again another place where Arsenal is going to just be able to be too overwhelming for Southampton, and I think they'll beat the Saints at home. So this would move Arsenal to 5-2 after this week. October 19th, they host Bournemouth, they go to Bournemouth, and I would see them again being kind of this is one of those games where I could see it being a little bit of a tougher game, but I could see Arsenal winning 2-1, and then this would have them being 6-2 in the league now. So I think Bournemouth can give us some trouble, but I have us beating them to go 6-2 in the league. Now this is where things get interesting. October 26th, the week after, we host Liverpool. I'm very, very, very excited for this game. I think Arsenal will beat Liverpool. It's a new manager. We got to see what players is he going to keep, what players is he going to get rid of. How do they adjust to being a new manager? All that type of stuff. But Liverpool's going to be hungry for this win this year just because they lost that game at the Emirates last year. Yes, they beat us in the FA Cup, but in my opinion, the league game that they lost had a lot more weight to it. So I could see Liverpool being very, very, very motivated for this game, and I think they're definitely going to be at least top 3, top 4 right now when this game is played out. But I, again, have Arsenal edging this one, so I think they're going to be 7-2 at the end of October in the league. All right, on to November. So November's it's going to be a tough month for Arsenal. Just checking, it looks like, I think we will have some Champions League group stage stuff in the middle of the month, but overall, the first game of November on the 2nd, we go to Newcastle, and I'm going to say that Arsenal will get a draw here. I think it's just due at some point. I don't think they're going to win all these games. I'm afraid to give them a loss at some point, but I will do it. I'm not going to be that biased of a fan. But this is a game where I could at least see a draw just because I feel like Newcastle, they just play better at home, and they're just that type of team. And I remember they gave Liverpool problems before Liverpool came back on them last year. They gave City some problems last year at home. I'm trying to think of their bigger wins, but they beat us, though that was on a suspect call, but still they beat us. So I'm going to give it a draw, and this would make Arsenal 7-3 at this. So again, they have not lost yet, but they have 3 draws, and then they would be at 7 wins. So this time we have the next game is, there's actually, oh no, there isn't much of a wait. It's November 9th, so it's the week after, and we go to the Bridge. We go to the Bridge in South London versus Chelsea, and automatically when I think about this game, I think of last year's game where they had that really, really, really good start against us, but we battled back due to that one banger by Rice, and then huge cross by Saka that ended up being a equalized shot from Trossard. Great connection by Saka. But the Bridge is always tough. I want to say Arsenal can win this game, and I think they can. I think they're the better team than Chelsea. But I also am like, this fixture always gives us some interesting issues. I want to lean draw, but the more and more I talk it out, just because they are still in the first year of a manager, I'm gonna go with a win for Arsenal on the road. I was leaning draw, but I'm gonna go win. If this was later in the season, I would have maybe leaned more towards draw. But depending on how Chelsea does, I think again with the new manager, it might be more of a slower start, and then we see the team connect. Kind of similar to this season, honestly. So I think this is a time that Arsenal could take advantage of this, and I would have them winning this game, so they would then be 8-3 after the end of this fixture. So we do get a small break, a 2-week break from the league. Again, I think this is due to Champions League, but on the 23rd of November, we will be hosting Forest at home. I see Arsenal winning this game. I don't have to really say much about this, honestly. I think we were going to beat Forest. Again, maybe they give us a scare or two, but I think we move past them pretty easily. And this would put Arsenal at 9-3 for this season. Let me just make sure. This would make them 9-3 for where I have them. And the last game of November, November 30th, we go to West Ham. I would have said before last season that this maybe would be a draw, just because West Ham beat us at home, which really pissed me off last year, specifically because we had kind of dropped some games to them before in the season, in the 2022-2023 season. But after we went to West Ham last year and spanked them, put up the 6 goals, I'm going to go with Arsenal winning. I just feel too confident with them in this position, and I think this is something that they can take care of. And with them winning, this would make them 10-3 at the end of November for the Premier League. All right, so the first fixture of December 3rd, this is a big one. We host Manchester United, and this looks to be a later game, so I'm sure it's going to be a night game, and that's exactly what I want, honestly, from Arsenal and United. This is going to be a fixture I'm very, very excited for, just because we had 2 close games with them this last season. We had that banger of a game at the Emirates, and then we had, honestly, a stinker of a game at Old Trafford, but Arsenal got it done with a defensive masterclass. And Ten Hag seems to always have some interesting tactics when he plays Arteta's side, and I want to see how he evolves that. But with this game being at home, again, I'm going to go Arsenal win. I just think they're the better side than United. But I think it's going to be, again, one of those games where, a team scores in the 75th, 80th minute, or it's just a really close game the entire time. I think this game could be, honestly, a sneaky draw game, but I'm going to go win here just because they're at home. And then this would make Arsenal 11-3 currently after this fixture. All right, guys, so for the next game, we got Fulham. This is a game on the road for Arsenal, December 7th, and I really want to be optimistic here and say Arsenal are going to get over these demons with Fulham, but I feel like at some point they're going to be due for a loss. I'm trying to keep this realistic, and history shows, you drew at Fulham last year, or when they were at home, and then you lost them in that December game, kind of similar times as last year. We're playing them at their stadium, but I'm going to go a loss just because we've kind of had trouble with them, and I feel like this, out of all games, would be the game for us to lose. So I'm going to go Arsenal gets their first loss. And then the next game is December 14th. They host Everton. I think that's going to be a win. I don't really see that being a big issue for Arsenal. The next week, again, they then go to Crystal Palace. I see Arsenal winning that game as well. And then they host Ipswich at the Emirates. That's another win. And then to finish off December, they go to Brentford. I also seeing that being a win. So I see December being an overall very, very, very good month for Arsenal. I think there is going to be a slip up here or there. But overall, I see this being a month that we can capitalize on and continue to build for the rest of the season. And just to clarify, at the end of December, I have Arsenal being 15-3-1. I just wanted to make sure I was staying consistent with that during the video as we continue to keep going. All right, so just looking at January, this is going to be a tougher month. This is going to be a tougher month, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We start off the month with Brighton away. I do think that is going to be a win. Brighton has given us issues in the past, but we really beat them pretty easily last year, I would say. So I think it's going to be a win. We beat them again last year on the road as well. The week after that, though, well, it's 10 days, so maybe there's a little break for Champions League or something like that. But the next game, January 14th, looks like it's also going to be a night game as well. We host Tottenham. I think this is going to be a win just because, I mean, we always know how this fixture goes, but Arsenal tends to beat Tottenham at home. Yes, they had a draw last year, but I think this is a win, and I think we are just going to be a little bit better at this time of the season. So I'm hoping we get the win, but I think we're going to get it done. The week after that, we then host Villa at home. This is going to be a tight game, but I'm going to go with... I want to go with a draw, honestly, but I'm going to go with the win. I think Arsenal just edge them out just because we got to make up for last year. That was terrible and still lives in my memory to this day. So I have us so far being undefeated in January. And then the last game of January, we go to Wolves. I think we take care of Wolves. Again, I could see this being a sneakier game than it should be, like a 2-1 victory. But overall, I see us beating Wolves, and I have Arsenal going 4-0 in January. So that would make Arsenal at the end of January, we would be 19-3-1 according to my predictions. All right, another interesting month was February. So we started off right up and early and hot. February 1st, we host City at the Emirates. Now, I want to say we're going to win the game just from a favoritism standpoint. But realistically, I'm going to go with a draw here. Yes, we beat them last year at home, but that was very close to being a draw. Also, City were down a couple players. I don't remember everyone that was down, but I know De Bruyne didn't play. So I don't know. I want to say we win the game, but I'm going to go draw here and just be realistic, especially if we end up beating Villa and Tottenham at home. I feel like you almost kind of have to settle with a draw here, just because, let's be realistic, I don't see Arsenal steamrolling every single team every game. Yes, I think they're the second best team in the league, but that's just not realistic over a 38-game season. So I have it being a draw. The next week, 2 weeks, February 15th, we go to Leicester. I think we take care of business there. Haven't been there in a year, but I don't think it's going to matter to the boys. I think they're going to get a W. We then host West Ham the week after that, February 22nd at the Emirates. I want to get revenge. I really, really, really want to get revenge for last year. And I think we're going to get that dub. So we're going to get a W there. And then we go to Forest. I could see this being a little bit of a sneaky, weird game. Forest ended up beating us 2 years ago in their building. And I never really forgot that. That was kind of during the collapse of the 2022-2023 season. But I think Arsenal edges this out just barely, but I think they're going to get it done. So at the end of the season, Arsenal will be 22-4-1 at the end of February. That's what I have it being. All right, so now on to March. We only have 3 games in March. I forget what the break is. I think there is I think there's FA Cup at the end of March, if I remember correctly. That's what it was like this year, so I'm going to just assume it's the same. But we have a pretty interesting month. We go to Old Trafford, and I could see this being a sneaky draw, honestly. I could see this being a draw, strictly just because, again, we didn't really, have the greatest game there last year. We just barely edged it out. I feel like they always play us tough, and I feel like United will be better this season, depending on what they do in the offseason, but I think they're going to be a little bit better. So I'm going to go draw here, which would suck, but I'm going to go draw. We then do host Chelsea at home. I see this being a win for us as well, strictly just because I think Chelsea's going to be playing better at the end of the season. Again, they're going to have a little bit more time to gel compared to when we played them in the beginning of the season. But this game's at home, and we had that spanking last season at home 5-0, and I could see that being not necessarily that level of degree of spanking, but maybe a 2-3-0, maybe a 3-1 type of win. So I have us beating Chelsea, and then we excuse me. I thought there was only 2 games, or excuse me, I thought there were 3 games in March. There really only is 2. But at the end of March, I have this team being 23-5-1 going into April. Hey guys, sorry for the lighting change. I'm recording this at a different time, but I just wanted to get this done. Hopefully I can get it out sooner than later. But we're going to be jumping into April, and this is a big month for the Arsenal. 5 games, and this is a little ballsy, but I have this team winning all 5 games. I have Fulham home, a win. I think we're going to get over the Demons from last year. Everton away, I think that's going to be a close game, but that's another win. Brentford home, I think that's going to be a win as well. Ipswich away, I think that's going to be a win as well. And then Palace home, I also think that's going to be a win. So at the end of April, I have this team being 28-5-1. All right, guys, on to the final month. This is May. There are 4 different matches, and this is going to be tough. I don't think it's going to be terrible, but I think it's still going to be tough just due to the pressure. We have Bournemouth home. That's a W. This is where I think we do drop some points. We have Liverpool away. I have that being a draw. And then Newcastle home the next week. I have that being a win. And then we finish the season at Southampton. I have that being a win as well. And at the end of May, this team, I have them being 31-6-1, a total of 99 points. Now, doing some reflecting, I think there was definitely some favoritism earlier today when I was recording, where I knew I had to give this team some losses and I didn't want to, and I was like, oh, maybe they'll come like later in the season. And now doing some reflecting, I mean, I think this team's probably going to lose. Well, it's not even I think. I know this team's going to lose some more games. This is somewhat of a kind of, a very dumbed down version of going through the entire season. But again, after doing some reflecting, I think this team probably loses realistically 3 to 4 more games. I just don't know which ones they will be. Let's hope it's a minimum of around 2 to 3 max, just because we had 5 losses last year and that really hurt us. And I mean, if we get anywhere over 5 or even at 5, I will be slightly concerned, just because the schedule is so difficult in the beginning, and we got to keep the losses to a minimum, preferably draws, obviously, but no team's perfect. So I know the losses are going to be higher than I'm predicting, but I just kind of wanted to touch on that because after doing some reflecting and kind of going through all of this, I do think it's definitely unrealistic, and I did want to make this more realistic, but what can you do? My favoritism, my fan, I don't even know what to call that. It got in the way. So I just kind of wanted to clarify that because I realize how silly this record sounds. So yeah, guys, I think this is going to be a really interesting season. Again, this is strictly for the league. I didn't touch on Champions League. I didn't touch on the FA Cup. I will do that once we get there. I just don't know, is Arsenal going to make it out of the group? I hope so, but you never know in soccer. And then the FA Cup, I mean, I just straight up can't predict that right now. So I know those will be factors, and those are all more reasons to why I think this team might lose some more games in the league. But if you did ask me what I'm prioritizing, I'm definitely having the FA Cup third, kind of split between the Champions League and the Prem. I know older Arsenal fans have seen this team win the league. Now I know it's been over 20 years at this point, or I guess 20 years since they have actually won the league. And I know a lot of people really want that Champions League as well. But I feel like where I'm at right now, I'm going to put Champions League second, but it's just barely second because I would take a Champions League. But I really do want to see this team win the league. Again, I know the Champions League is more of an important, more impressive feat as well. But it would be really, really, really nice to see Arsenal win the trophy or to lift a trophy, and potentially Pep's last season, is to what the reports are saying at least. So I would take the league next year, but again, there's pressure this year going in on Arteta to finally get some silverware, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, these were my predictions for Arsenal in the 2024-2025 season. If you guys have any other video recommendations or stuff you just want to see me talk about related to sports or anything, just let me know in the comments. I'll be there to look at them. And yeah, if you guys like this video, like it up. If you like my type of content, subscribe. I'm not going to stop making these type of videos. And I really appreciate you guys watching and spending your time with me for however long this video will be once it's all edited up. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.